This happened a few weeks ago. I'm 32 now, and I've always loved taking road trips to capture nature. I thought a week in the Appalachian Mountains would help me find inspiration. I packed my camera and hit the road, excited for the beauty I'd find. I pulled into a small diner after a long drive. I was hungry and tired. The place was dim and smelled like fried food. I sat at the counter, and the waitress came over. She hesitated before handing me a menu. The locals looked over at me and whispered. Their eyes darted my way. Maybe it was just small-town curiosity, but I felt a chill. The waitress had a nervous smile, and it stuck with me. I ordered a burger and waited. While I ate, I caught those furtive glances. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was nothing. But there was something unspoken in the air. After I finished, I left the diner. The night was dark, heavy with silence. I got back in my car and started driving. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I focused on the winding road, but the shadows loomed larger than life. They blended with the trees, making me uneasy. Later, I spotted an abandoned car. The paint was peeling, and the windows were cracked. I stepped out to take a picture. When I leaned in to look inside, I saw old photographs. Dust covered the seats, but the faces smiled under the sun. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why was this car here? Who did it belong to? I took a photo, but my heart raced. As I continued my trip, I noticed something strange. Every time I stopped to snap a picture, a woman stood in the distance. She appeared behind trees or on a nearby trail. I thought I was imagining things, but it never failed. I started to feel uneasy. It seemed like I wasn't supposed to be there. One night, while sitting by a campfire, a local told me a chilling tale. He said wanderers often went missing in the mountains. Their voices echoed in the woods, calling for help. Nobody ever found them. I laughed, trying to brush it off. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe it was true. As I drove home, dread settled in. Those encounters felt like more than just coincidences. I thought about returning to the mountains, but my skin prickled with unease. I couldn't help but feel hunted, like something was following me. Then I saw her again. She stood in the road ahead. I slammed on the brakes, panic rising. How did she keep finding me? I didn't want to look away. Something held me back. What if she came closer? What if I never left? I couldn't shake those thoughts. As I stared at her, she just stood there, watching me. I couldn't breathe, frozen in my seat. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. I squeezed the steering wheel, my heart pounding loud in my ears. The woman in the road didn't move. Her pale silhouette blended with the night. A part of me wanted to drive straight through her, but another part, deeper and darker, wanted to understand who she was and what she wanted from me. I closed my eyes, inhaling sharply. When I opened them, she was still there, just standing silent and unnerving. I rolled the window down a fraction. "Excuse me?" My voice came out shaky, barely more than a whisper. "Are you okay?" No response. She didn't even blink. I felt like I was staring at a painting, static and artfully crafted, but lifeless. I leaned closer, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Maybe I should get out of the car, but the thought of being that close terrified me. What if she was something more than just a lost wanderer? Then she turned her head sharply, like she'd heard something. I glanced over my shoulder, but nothing was there. I turned back to find she had taken a step forward. It seemed impossible. I didn't even remember her moving. My instinct screamed at me to drive away, yet my body felt glued to the seat. Suddenly a car came up behind me, its headlights flooding the scene. I jerked back into reality and hit the gas. The tires screeched as I veered around her, my heart racing from relief and fear at the same time. I didn't look back until I heard the hum of the road beneath me. My hands shook as I grasped the wheel tightly. I sped away, desperate for distance. But as the lights of the diner flickered in the distance, a feeling of dread took hold again. With every mile, every turn, I could sense her presence. Was she still out there? That chill returned to my spine, and I couldn't shake the notion that she would be waiting for me. I pulled into the diner again, hoping the warm light would soothe my frayed nerves. The locals barely acknowledged me this time, but their whispers filled the space again. It was like they knew something I didn't. I sat back at the counter, ordering another cup of coffee. Each sip burned as I replayed the encounter in my mind. Then I spotted the waitress. She was watching me. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with concern. "You shouldn't be driving out there at night," she said, her voice almost trembling. "It's not safe." I swallowed hard. "Why? What do you mean?" "They say the mountains take people. Sometimes they never come back." The weight of her words seeped into the air, thick and suffocating. My stomach twisted. "Have you seen her?" I blurted out, and the woman turned pale. "Who?" she asked, but I could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes. I hesitated. "The woman in white. The one who appears." Her gaze dropped for a second, and I dared to feel hope. "You should stay put. Don't go up there at night. It's best not to provoke anything." The words chilled me. I finished my coffee, longing for the safe familiarity of home. My thoughts spiraled. It wasn't just a lingering fascination anymore, it was a warning. What if she wasn't just an apparition? What if she had been trying to tell me something? Just then, the diner door swung open. A gust of cool wind swept through, carrying a familiar scent of pine and earth. I turned to see a figure standing in the entrance, drenched in shadow. That's when I saw it. The same pale outline peeking through the doorframe. My heart dropped. I wasn't alone. The figure stepped inside, and the dim light illuminated her face. I felt my pulse quicken again. It was the woman from the road. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. The waitress gasped, stepping back. The diner suddenly felt too small, like it was closing in on me. I wanted to bolt for the door, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. Are you lost?" I stammered, trying to pin down the reality of the moment. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she moved closer, gliding past tables as if the floorboards didn't creak under her feet. Every diner patron turned to stare, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. The usual hum of conversation was swallowed by silence. The air thickened around us, and I could feel the weight of every gaze. "What do you want?" I said, finally breaking the stillness. The question hung between us, heavy with expectation. Still, she didn't answer. Instead, she reached out a hand, palm upturned, as if she wanted me to take it. I felt an icy shiver run down my spine. My mind screamed to run, but something rooted me to the spot. "Get away from her!" the waitress shouted, a mix of fear and defiance in her voice. She darted toward me. "Just go! She doesn't belong here!" That seemed to snap me out of my daze. I edged back, ready to leave, but the woman followed. Her eyes bore into mine, dark and endless. The fear in my gut turned to urgency. If I didn't get out now, I might never leave. I turned on my heel and sprinted towards the exit. The diner door swung open and I burst outside, gasping for air. The cool night filled my lungs, but I could feel her presence behind me, tugging at the edges of my vision. The road outside seemed desolate now. The mountains loomed ominously, their silhouettes strong against the star-speckled sky. Just when I thought I was free from her grip, I heard it, a whisper weaving through the wind. "Help me." I froze on the spot. It felt like the world had stopped. I glanced back at the diner, half expecting to see her at the door, but the entrance was empty. I shook my head, trying to drown out the echo of her voice. It couldn't be real. There had to be a rational explanation. My mind raced, and I could feel myself spiraling. I needed answers, but what kind of answers could explain what I'd just experienced? I stepped back into the diner, my heart pounding as I scanned for any sign of her. Everyone continued their meals, almost like nothing had happened. The waitress was back behind the counter, shaking her head with pity in her eyes, as if she had seen this all before. "I need to know about her," I said, desperation creeping into my voice. The waitress sighed, looking down. "She's not the first to linger here. We try to warn people, but you have to listen." "Listen to what?" Just then, the lights flickered. I turned around, heart racing, and felt the air grow colder. Outside, the wind howled, and the shadows grew longer. Something wasn't right. That's when I saw it. In the reflection of the diner window, I caught a glimpse of her again, her pale figure standing behind me, and I knew she was trying to communicate. But before I could turn, everything went dark. Chapter 2. I jolted awake. The diner was gone, replaced by an empty stretch of pavement and the moon shining down on me. I blinked against the brightness, disoriented. My heart pounded in my chest, and I was lying on the ground, the night air cool against my skin. I pushed myself up, looking around. No sign of the diner, no sign of the woman, just the stillness of the night wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. How had I ended up here? Panic skittered across my mind. I scrambled to my feet, glancing down the road in both directions. Nothing. The only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. The last thing I remembered was the feeling of her presence, like a shadow lurking behind me. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Where was everyone? I turned and started to walk, my eyes scanning for any signs of life. Maybe the diner was just around the bend. I could ask the waitress for answers. Or maybe I could find someone who could explain the strange pull I felt toward that woman. As I walked, unease settled in my stomach. The silence was too heavy. I quickened my pace until I broke into a jog, hoping to find something familiar, anything that would help anchor me in this bizarre reality. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my eye. I veered off the road, heart racing again. In the distance, I saw a small cabin nestled among the trees. The lights were on, and I felt a surge of hope. I hurried towards it, pushing through thick brush and tangled branches. As I reached the porch, I hesitated, my instinct telling me to knock and my mind screaming that I was being reckless. What if the occupants weren't friendly? Ignoring my gut, I knocked. After a moment that felt like eternity, the door creaked open. A woman stood there, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Can I help you?" she asked, eyeing my disheveled state. I was in a diner just down the road, and then something happened. "I don't know how I ended up here," I managed to say, my breath coming out shaky. "Another one?" she whispered, appearing to pale. "What do you mean, another one?" She stepped aside, ushering me in quickly. The warmth of the cabin enveloped me, but I couldn't shake the creeping sense of dread. "There's been talk of her again," the woman said softly, closing the door behind me. "People see her on the road just like you did, but she's not real, at least not anymore." I frowned, the pieces clicking together. Something was wrong, and I was at the center of it. "Who is she? What does she want?" The woman swayed slightly, caught between fear and desperation. "She wants someone to hear her, but if you do, you may not come back." My heart raced. I felt the pull of the woman's voice again, like a siren song, the whisper of "help me," echoing in my mind. What if I can help her? Before she could respond, the lights flickered once more. I felt a draft rush through the room. Something was coming, and I had to decide, was I ready to confront the truth, even if it meant facing her again? Then, the cabin door flew open, and a cold gust swept through, extinguishing the lights. My breath caught in my throat. I had to act. Chapter 3. I stumbled backward, my heart hammering against my ribs. The oppressive darkness wrapped around me, swallowing every trace of the cabin's warmth. I couldn't see anything, not even the outline of the woman who had just ushered me inside. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. No answer came. Panic crept back in. I felt my way along the wall, searching for a light switch or a door, anything to ground me in this unsettling reality. Then I heard it. A soft whisper, like the rustling of feathers. Help me. The voice slid through the darkness, sending a shiver down my spine. Instincts kicked in. I had to get out of here. I rushed toward the door, gripping the handle firmly. Before I could turn it, the whisper transformed, sharpening into a frantic plea. Please! My hand froze. Who are you? I shouted out, my voice seeming small against the vast emptiness. Don't leave me! The voice cried. It sounded desperate, lost. A twinge of empathy tugged at my heart. I took a shaky breath and stepped back into the room. Where are you? I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. Here. The voice drew closer. Just listen. I felt like I was being pulled deeper into a void, an inexplicable urge to comply raging within me. Okay, I'm listening, just tell me what you need. The shadows shifted as if forming a figure. I squinted into the dark. A faint silhouette flickered in and out of focus. A woman, the same woman from the diner. My mind raced. Was this some kind of trick? Help me, she repeated, and I could scarcely breathe. I'm trapped. Trapped? Where? I asked, wanting to run but too curious to bolt. In another time, another place. You can bring me back, but you have to choose. The figure trembled, a cascade of emotions flowing through the whisper. If you take my hand, I can show you. Fear twisted in my gut, battling against the gripping need to help her. What happens if I do? Everything can change, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But you may not like what you find. The air felt electric, thick with possibilities and dread. The woman reached out, her hand barely visible in the dark. Please, you can't leave me here with them. What do you mean, them? I asked, taking a tentative step forward. A shuffling noise came from the shadows, chilling the air around me. My instincts screamed at me to run, to get away. But I had come this far, I had to at least understand. I can't explain it. She hesitated. But if you don't come now, you won't have a choice later. As I debated, the woman's figure flickered more violently, revealing flashes of haunting images, the cabin, the diner, and a dark forest. Each image hit me like a gut punch. Then, behind me, I heard a low growl, not a whisper, but a sound that felt primal and threatening. The dark shadows stirred, moving closer. That's when I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes watching me from the corner of the room. My heart raced. I was running out of time. Choose! The voice of the woman echoed in my mind. I gathered my courage. Would I face whatever lurked in the dark? Or would I risk reaching out for something that felt so dangerously real? You have to hurry! The woman insisted, her form wavering in the dimness as I gripped the threshold between my two choices. Before I could decide, the growl deepened, a clear warning that I was not alone. I had to act. Chapter 4. I lunged forward, heart pounding in my ears, caught between the chill of fear and the warmth of urgency. My hand shot out instinctively, gripping the invisible space where the woman's spectral hand seemed to flicker. As my fingers brushed against nothing, the room echoed with a cacophony of growls and the shifting of shadows. No! The woman cried, and a surge of frustration flared within me. I could feel the weight of her desperation. I needed to make a choice, now. Please, I shouted back, forcing bravery into my voice. If I take your hand, what will happen to me? Your reality will blend with mine. You'll be a part of it. Her outline flickered faster, her presence warping under the pressure of the growls. I can't do this alone. You must trust me. But trust didn't come easy. The glowing eyes hissed, and I felt a low rumble reverberate through the cabin floor. The growl morphed into a howl, echoing through the dark like a call to the wild. Panic shot through me and I hesitated, glancing back at the door. Then a flash of movement caught my eye, and before I could react, a dark figure dashed across the room. I pivoted, torn between fleeing and standing my ground. "Don't look away," the woman urged, her voice cracking. "What was that?" I yelled over the rising chaos. "What are they?" "Just take my hand," she pleaded again, desperation flooding her voice. "I can show you the truth." The darkness intensified, pulling at me like a tide. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe exploring this shadowy encounter would lead to more danger. But that growl, it was so close. I needed to know before it was too late. I wasn't ready for it. I reached for her hand, grasping at the air. "I'm coming," I shouted. The moment I grasped her hand, the world around me shifted violently. The cold darkness dissolved, replaced by flashes of light. A rush of wind surging through me was immediately followed by a gut-wrenching sensation, as if I was being stretched between dimensions. Suddenly, I was standing in a clearing, bathed in moonlight. I stumbled back, my eyes wide. The cabin was gone. "What? Where are we?" I gasped, trying to make sense of my surroundings. "I brought you here," she began, but her form flickered again, wavering in the silver light. "You need to understand." Before I could respond, I felt something dark shift in the shadows surrounding us. The growl returned, deeper now and more threatening. I spun around, searching for the source. From the darkness emerged figures that were more than just shadows. Something monstrous. "Run!" I shouted, instinctively grabbing the woman's hand again. "No, we have to face them." She was resolute, a stark contrast to my growing panic. "Why?" "Because they are the key." The creatures advanced, their glowing eyes piercing through the dark. I could feel their hostility, a simmering hatred that left me frozen in place. That's when I heard it, a melodic voice piercing through the chaos, one that sounded familiar yet unrecognizable. It was singing softly, weaving through the air like a lullaby, pulling me closer to a destiny I had yet to understand. In a desperate bid for clarity, I turned back to her. "What do we need to do?" But her form flickered again, revealing just a fragment of her true self, as the figures approached. I could feel time slipping away. "Find the heart. It's the only way to escape," she cried, desperation etched in her expression. I nodded, fear crashing over me like waves. The darkness was closing in, but she was right. I had to move. I couldn't let them take me, not now. But as I dared to step forward, my heart raced with the bittersweet truth. Not all who wander are lost, but some journeys change you forever. And I was about to face my reckoning amidst the monsters of the night. Chapter 5. I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I locked eyes with the glowing, monstrous figures edging closer. Their presence was suffocating, but the woman's urgency pushed me into action. "Where is the heart?" I demanded, scanning the clearing. "The heart is hidden where the darkness quakes," she shouted, pointing to the tallest shadow that stretched into the trees. It pulsated with menace, a rhythm that echoed the growl that reverberated through the air. My instincts screamed for me to run, but something in her conviction anchored me. I felt a flicker of courage spark within. "Stay close," I said, squeezing her hand. We charged toward the dark mass, the creatures at our heels. Their howls grew louder, a feral symphony that fueled our adrenaline. The clearing transformed into a nightmarish battlefield. Trees twisted, their branches clawing at the shadows, as if they too understood the terror lurking in their midst. "The heart," I yelled over the chaos. "Where exactly?" "In the ground. Find the source," she called back, her form momentarily flickering before solidifying again. We veered off the path into a thicket, evading snapping jaws and swiping claws. I stumbled, hitting the damp earth hard. My hands hit the ground and instinct took over. I began to dig, desperation fueling my movements. I felt the cold dirt and roots slip away beneath my fingers, clawing for that hidden truth among the chaos. As I dug, I heard the distant hush of the melody again, wrapping around me like a protective cocoon. It called me, beckoning from deep below. I paused, my gut churning with a mix of dread and instinct. Then I felt something solid beneath the earth, something pulsing with life. "I think I've found it," I shouted, my fingers wrapping around a small warm object. A strange marking ran along its surface, glowing faintly. "No, hurry," the woman urged, glancing over her shoulder. The creatures were closing in, their eyes gleaming with the promise of violence. I yanked the object free, pulling it from its earthen tomb. "What is this?" I asked, holding it out between us. "It's the heart of the clearing," she explained, her tone urgent. "It anchors the balance. We need to activate it." The creatures howled, a terrifying sound that rattled my bones. I had no idea how to activate it. "How?" I insisted. "Feel it. Connect your energy to it," she directed. I focused, letting my fear merge with resolve. I pressed the heart to my chest, feeling it vibrate against me. Suddenly, a shock wave coursed through my veins. The ground trembled, and the shadows recoiled. I saw the creatures falter, their confident advance eroding into hesitation. "What's happening?" I gasped, startled by the energy swirling around me. The woman's eyes sparkled with hope. "You're restoring the balance. Just hold on." But the creatures were regaining their composure. One lunged forward, jaws snapping inches from my face. I stumbled back, the heart slipping from my grasp. It clattered against the stone, losing its light. "No!" I cried, lunging for it, panic bubbling up. Before I could reach it, the shadow surged around, trapping me in a web of darkness. The eerie lullaby faded, replaced by the echo of laughter, cold and mocking. Someone was in the house. Chapter 6. The laughter sliced through the darkness, chilling me to the bone. Panic surged, and I struggled against the shadows wrapping around me, trying to find a way out. The air felt thick and stifling. I wanted to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat. "Get up!" The woman's voice broke through the chaos. Her ghostly figure flickered amid the haze. "You have to keep moving." I pushed myself to my feet, the heart forgotten for a moment as I searched for an escape. The shadows pulsed around me, almost alive, swirling in a menacing dance. I could see the shapes of the creatures lurking, their eyes burning with a hunger I couldn't understand. Through the web of darkness, I noticed a faint light coming from the edge of the clearing. It flickered like a dying star, but felt steady. "This way," I shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the light. As we ran, the shadows snapped and howled, slipping and slithering at our heels. With every quickened step, I could hear the heart beating, a rhythm that started to sync with my own. I felt a surge of determination. We had to reach that light. We broke through the murky veil, the air suddenly clearer. There was a gnarled tree at the light's center, its branches twisted toward the sky like hands yearning for freedom. At its base lay the heart, now dim and barely glowing on the earth. "No!" I gasped, my heart sinking. "We need to fix it!" "Focus!" the woman urged, her presence flickering. "You can do this!" I knelt beside it, cradling the heart in my hands. I felt the warmth, but it was fading fast. Gathering all my strength, I pressed it to my chest again. I closed my eyes, letting the connection surge anew. A wave of energy raced through me, far stronger than before. The ground rumbled, and the shadows screeched, pulling back momentarily. "Hold on to it!" she cried, urgency slicing through her voice. Just as I thought I might rekindle its light, a shadow lunged forward, claws scrambling against the earth. I froze, terrified. This was the moment I had to act. I couldn't fail. Please just let it work, I begged, pouring every ounce of fear and hope into the heart. I felt my resolve harden, transforming into a beacon of energy that erupted from me in brilliant tendrils. Then the light exploded outward, engulfing the clearing. The shadows screeched louder and the figures stumbled back, retreating into the woods. But then I felt something sink into my back, sharp and cold, like ice being driven deep. My breath caught, and I gasped as the world slipped from view. The light flickered and I was thrown to the ground, twisting in agony as the laughter returned, louder than before. Struggling against the pain, I turned to see who, or what, had attacked me. The laughter continued, wrapping around me like chains. That's when I saw it. A figure cloaked in darkness, standing at the edge of the clearing, pointing directly at me. Shadows danced around them, drawn to their call, as if they had finally come home. "Welcome back," the figure taunted, stepping into the light. Chapter 7. The figure stepped closer, its silhouette shifting like smoke. I could barely breathe. The shadows snarled and coiled around me, a living tide ready to pull me under. I could feel heat radiating off the heart I still clutched, but the cold stab in my back reminded me of my vulnerability. "Who are you?" I managed to say, my voice trembling. "Someone you should have feared," it replied, voice deep and smooth like velvet. "But you've forgotten what you are, haven't you?" "What do you mean?" I struggled to remain focused. The edges of my vision blurred, chaos mixing with clarity. "You think you can escape your past?" The figure stepped into the glow, revealing its features. They were eerily familiar, like a twisted reflection of myself. "You're not the first and you won't be the last." Panic surged again. I was losing my grip on the heart, and with it, my last hope. Was I truly trapped in this nightmare? "You don't own me," I shouted, trying to wrestle control back. "Don't I?" The laughter echoed again, this time rich with disdain. Somehow the shadows drew closer, absorbing the light around us. "You belong to the darkness. Embrace it." The woman beside me flickered, her face stricken with fear. "You have to fight. Remember who you are." Her voice jolted me. I thought of the heart, of the light I had felt just moments before. I couldn't give in now. With renewed determination, I concentrated on the warmth that pulsed through the heart, its rhythm syncing with my own once more. "Get away," I screamed, thrusting the heart toward the dark figure. A beam of brilliant light shot out, momentarily pushing back the shadows, making them hiss in pain. But the figure retained its composure, unfazed by the outburst. "You think that will save you? You are not strong enough." It raised its hand, calling forth the shadows, a thick wave crashing against the light. I couldn't falter. With every ounce of energy, I pressed the heart harder to my chest. I remembered the laughter, the terror, and the reason I was fighting. I had people I cared about. I couldn't let this darkness win. "Rise!" I shouted. The heart pulsed with energy, the glow expanded, chasing away the encroaching shadows. But in that moment of clarity, I felt another faint presence nearby. Someone else was in the clearing, hidden just out of sight. My attention fractured. Who was it? The figure noticed my distraction and grinned. "You think you can save everyone? You're wrong." Suddenly I heard a whisper from the darkness, a voice laced with pain. "Help me." My heart raced. I knew I had to choose. Focus on the battle before me or find out who was trapped. The shadows were intensifying, and I sensed their hunger was returning. The laughter grew louder again, wrapping around my resolve. "Let go," I yelled, standing firm. "Not tonight." Then everything went dark. I awoke on the side of the road, the feeling of gravel biting at my palms. The morning sun washed over me, its warmth chasing away the lingering cold of the shadows. I blinked against the brightness and scrambled to my feet, heart pounding. The diner loomed ahead, familiar but distant, like a memory I couldn't quite grasp. Had it all been a dream? The woman in white, the forest, the dark figure. It felt too real to dismiss entirely. I dusted off my clothes and looked around, half expecting the monsters to jump out from the trees. But nothing moved. The world felt eerily still. I approached the diner with shaky legs. Inside, the locals quietly sipped their coffee, completely unaware of my internal panic. The waitress who had warned me looked up as I stepped in. Her eyes widened, and she moved to my side. "You're back," she said softly, as if expecting my return. I started, but my throat felt tight. Had I found the heart? Did I save anyone? I fought to piece together the fading images, but they slipped just out of reach. Wordlessly, I took a seat at the counter and tried to catch my breath. "Are you okay?" the waitress asked gently, pouring me a cup of strong coffee. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have." I tried to smile, but the memory of that laughter made it impossible. As I sipped my coffee, the chatter of the diner split into fragments. I caught whispers of dreams, of figures appearing in the woods. The words twisted through my mind. "Help me. Trapped." The woman's voice echoed against my consciousness, but the more I clung to it, the more elusive it became. Just then, the door swung open. A man entered, eyes shifting nervously as he scanned the room. My heart raced. He looked familiar, a glimpse of someone I'd seen before. Was he a fellow wanderer? Someone touched by the same darkness? I wanted to speak to him, to ask him about the woman, but the words stuck in my throat. The diner seemed to close around me, making it hard to breathe. I focused on the coffee cup in my hand, hoping it would ground me. People came and went, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was shifting subtly beneath the surface. The waitress placed a hand on my shoulder, breaking my reverie. "You need to be careful, you know," she said, her eyes serious. "The woods have a way of drawing people in. Some don't return." There it was again. The unshakable sense of unease, like a dark memory that wouldn't fade. I glanced out of the window, staring at the trees dancing just beyond the glass. "What about the woman?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She looked back at me, sorrow etched in her features. "People sometimes see her when they're lost. Others come never to be found. She lingers in the space between what's real and what's not." I swallowed, feeling a wave of dread wash over me. The encounter hadn't just altered my reality, it felt like a dark echo I couldn't outrun. Will I ever really know what happened? A flicker of something, sympathy, passed through her gaze. "Perhaps the answers are in the woods, but that doesn't mean you'll like what you find." With that, a chill swept through me. I had escaped, but at what cost? I moved to get up, but I froze as the man glanced back one last time. His eyes met mine and something flickered there, recognition, maybe a shared fear. But the diner remained unchanged. The voices continued, filling the space with mundane chatter, while the weight of my experience lingered. The truth was, regardless of what I had discovered or felt, the encroaching presence of the mountains would always haunt me. As I stepped outside, I felt the pull of the woods again gently tug at my thoughts, an unanswered question that might forever remain just out of reach. I glanced back at the diner, the warmth inside growing faint. It felt like a safe haven and a prison all at once. I moved forward, unsure of where I'd go next, but knowing I had to keep walking. Some questions would always linger, the shadows stretching long behind me as I ventured farther down the empty road. Would I ever come back? Would I find the answers I sought? Or would I continue to wander, forever searching for the truth among the unknown? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. The mountains would always be watching.